that Washington quarter, check it closely. One of these top 5 rare Washington quarters could be worth a fortune, and some have sold for thousands or even potentially millions. Stay until the end to see which coin you should never spend. You are standing in line at a coffee shop. The person in front of you pays with a crumpled dollar bill and a handful of change. You hear the clink of coins on the counter. Among them is a worn, silver-colored quarter. The cashier barely glances at it, slides it into the register, and moves on. In that moment, a transaction occurs that most people would never think twice about. But what if I told you that the person who just spent that quarter might have just handed away a life-changing sum of money? What if that single piece of pocket change, a coin that looks almost identical to the billions of others in circulation, could be worth more than the house you live in? Today, we are going to uncover the mystery of the 1965 no-mint mark Washington quarter. We are going to explore how a coin with no distinguishing features could be worth up to $660,000. And more importantly, we are going to show you exactly what to look for so you never make the mistake of spending a fortune ever again. You see, in the world of numismatics, there is a stark and unforgiving divide between the spender and the collector. The spender sees a quarter for what it is: 25 cents, a tool for a vending machine, a piece of metal to complete a transaction. The collector, however, sees something entirely different. The collector sees history, rarity, and potential. The collector understands that the smallest details, a missing letter, a slightly different shine, a weight that feels just a fraction off, can be the difference between pocket change and a down payment on a luxury car. And right now, there is a specific coin that is causing a frenzy in the collecting community. A coin so deceptive in its appearance that it could be sitting in your jar of loose change at this very moment. It is the 1965 Washington quarter, and its value, in certain extraordinary circumstances, has been known to reach astronomical heights. But before you start dumping out your piggy bank, you need to understand the story behind this coin. You need to know why it exists, what makes it so rare, and how a coin that was produced in the billions could possibly be worth a small fortune. The answer lies in a moment of national crisis and a series of minting errors that created some of the most valuable coins in American history. To understand the value of the 1965 quarter, we have to travel back to the mid-1960s. America was in the midst of a severe coin shortage. The price of silver was rising rapidly, and people were hoarding silver coins because their melt value was exceeding their face value. The government needed a solution, and fast. So, in 1965, they made a radical decision. They changed the composition of the quarter from 90% silver to a copper-nickel-clad layer. This was a massive shift in American coinage, and to prevent further hoarding, the government took an even more draconian step. They removed the mint marks from all coins. That means that for the years 1965, 1966, and 1967, no quarters, dimes, or half-dollars had any indication of where they were minted. This was not an error. This was intentional. The government wanted to make it impossible for collectors to distinguish between coins minted in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, thereby discouraging them from pulling specific issues out of circulation. This is where things get interesting. Because of this policy, over 1.8 billion 1965 quarters were struck. That is an almost incomprehensible number of coins. And because there are no mint marks, every single one of them looks the same to the untrained eye. For the most part, these coins are only worth their face value. In circulated condition, they are worth exactly 25 cents. Even in uncirculated condition, they might only be worth a few dollars. So, why are we talking about a coin worth over $500,000? Because within that sea of billions of common coins, there exists a tiny handful of ghosts. These are the error coins. These are the coins that escaped the mint's quality control, the coins that were struck under the wrong conditions, and the coins that have become the holy grail for collectors. The primary reason a 1965 quarter can be worth life-altering money is if it was accidentally struck on a silver planchet. Remember, the switch to clad composition happened in 1965. But the mint still had leftover silver planchets from 1964. In the chaos of the transition, a few of these silver blanks made their way into the presses meant for the new clad coins. If you find a 1965 quarter that weighs more than the standard 5.67 grams and has a distinct silver ring to it, you might not be holding a clad coin at all. You could be holding a transitional error that is worth anywhere from $7,000 to over $50,000. There is one authenticated example that sold for $16,800. But the value doesn't stop there. Beyond the silver transitional errors, there are other errors that can push the value into the six-figure stratosphere. We are talking about double dies, coins where the design is imprinted twice, creating a blurry or ghost-like image. The 1965 double die obverse, known as FS101, is a recognized variety that can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on its condition. There are also the special mint set or SMS coins. Between 1965 and 1967, the mint didn't produce proof sets. Instead, they produced special mint sets, which were supposed to have a slightly better finish than regular circulation coins. Some of these SMS coins, particularly those in pristine condition, can sell for thousands of dollars. The average person might look at an SMS coin and think it is just a nice-looking quarter. But the collector knows that a perfect MS68 or SP68 grade can mean a sale price of $4,000 or more. And then there are the extreme rarities. We are talking about coins that have been graded at the highest possible levels, coins that have survived decades without a single scratch. According to price guides, a top-tier specimen of a 1965 Washington quarter can range anywhere from $14,000 to over $15,000. So, how do we get to $660,000? While documented public sales of a standard 1965 quarter reaching that exact figure are scarce, the numismatic market is built on the principle of supply and demand. When you combine an extraordinarily rare error with a perfect grade and the fervor of a competitive auction, prices can defy all expectations. The potential for a coin to reach that level of value is what drives the market. It is the dream that keeps collectors searching through rolls of coins, hoping to find that one in a billion anomaly. So what does this mean for you? It means that every time you handle pocket change, you are potentially holding a lottery ticket. It means that the jar of coins on your dresser is not just a collection of spare change. It is an unexplored treasure chest. The 1965 quarter is the ultimate test of the spender versus the collector mindset. The spender sees a quarter. The collector sees a ghost. The spender trades it for a soda. The collector trades it for a new car. The market for rare coins is hotter than it has been in decades. With the rise of online auction houses and global connectivity, rare coins are finding buyers faster and for higher prices than ever before. If you have a 1965 quarter, do not spend it. Do not clean it. Do not even touch the face of it. Put it in a protective sleeve and do your research. Look for the weight. Look for the doubling. Look for the strike. And if you think you have found something special, get it graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. That certification could be the key that unlocks a fortune. As we wrap up today's journey into the world of hidden treasure, remember this. The difference between a $1,000 payday and a 25-cent disappointment is knowledge. The person who spends a rare coin doesn't know any better. But now you do. Now you are part of a select group of people who understand the true value of what is in their pockets. So, the next time you get change, take a moment. Look at the date. Feel the weight. Listen to the ring. You might just be holding a piece of history that could change your life. Every single day, millions of Americans empty their pockets, dump their spare change into jars, feed coins into vending machines, and casually hand over quarters without a second thought. And every single day, most of them are throwing away life-changing money. You heard that right. Right now, as you sit there watching this video, there is a non-zero chance that a coin worth nearly $800,000 is sitting in your car's cup holder, buried in that old coffee can on your dresser, or jingling around in the bottom of your purse. Sounds insane. It sounds like clickbait, but this is the reality of modern numismatics, and the coin we are about to discuss is the holy grail of pocket change. Let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself. When was the last time you actually looked at the coins in your hand before you spent them? When was the last time you flipped a quarter over, checked the mint mark, examined the edges, or held it up to the light? Be honest. Most people never do. They see a quarter, they see 25 cents, and they spend it without a moment's hesitation. But here is the brutal truth that separates the wealthy from the rest of the world. The wealthy understand that value is not always obvious. The wealthy understand that fortune favors the informed. And the wealthy understand that sometimes the difference between 25 cents and $790,000 is nothing more than a single millimeter of metal struck at precisely the wrong moment in history. This is the story of the 1995 D Washington quarter dollar, a coin that the United States Mint produced over 1 billion times, a coin so common that most coin dealers will barely give it a second glance, and yet, a coin that in its rarest form has become one of the most coveted error coins of the modern era. We are talking about a coin that could be hiding in your pocket change right now, a coin that could fundamentally alter your financial future, and a coin that most people will walk past every single day without ever realizing what they are holding. Here is the moment of truth. Stop what you are doing. Pause this video if you have to. Go grab that jar of loose change you have been ignoring for months. Dump it out on the table. Start looking for quarters dated 1995 with a D mint mark. Do it right now. I will wait. Welcome back. Did you find one? If you did, do not spend it. Do not roll it up and take it to the bank. Do not casually drop it into a vending machine. That single coin, that seemingly ordinary piece of pocket change, could be the key to unlocking a level of wealth you never imagined possible. But only if you know exactly what you are looking for. To understand why this specific coin commands such astronomical value, you have to understand what makes it so extraordinarily rare. And to understand that, we have to go back to 1995, when the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out quarters by the billions to meet the demands of an expanding American economy. The 1995 D Washington quarter was struck in staggering numbers. Over 1,103,216,000 of them to be precise. That is not a typo. That is a billion coins with a B. By any measure of numismatics, that makes this one of the most common quarters ever produced. And indeed, if you pull a standard 1995 D quarter out of circulation today, it is worth exactly 25 cents. Maybe $1 or $2 if it is in pristine uncirculated condition. But nothing more. Nothing special. Just pocket change. So how does a coin with a mintage of over 1 billion units become worth nearly $800,000? The answer lies in the errors. Specifically, a constellation of minting errors so dramatic, so visually striking, and so incredibly rare that they transform an otherwise common coin into a numismatic unicorn. And the 1995 D Washington quarter is home to some of the most spectacular errors ever produced by the United States Mint. Let us start with the double die error. This occurs during the die preparation process, when the design elements get doubled during the hubbing process, creating a ghost-like shadow effect on the lettering, the date, or the portrait itself. Now, double die errors are not uncommon in the world of coin collecting. But what makes the 1995 D variety so special, so coveted, and so valuable is that the D Mint Mark double die is significantly rarer than its Philadelphia counterpart. The 1995 P double die is well known and well documented. But the 1995 D double die? That is a ghost in the market. That is the kind of coin that advanced collectors spend years searching for and may never find. PCGS CoinFacts confirms that while the 1995 D Washington quarter is very common up to MS66 condition, anything grading higher than MS67 is extremely difficult to find or obtain. When you combine that scarcity with a dramatic double die error, the value skyrockets into 5, 6, and potentially 7-figure territory. But the double die is just the beginning. The 1995 D quarter is also known for off-center strikes, where the planchet slips out of position before the dies stamp the design, resulting in a crescent-shaped blank area on one side of the coin. The more off-center it is, the more valuable it becomes. A 50% or greater off-center strike with the date still fully visible can command anywhere from $100 to $500 or more. A documented 1995 D example graded MS65 sold at heritage auctions for approximately $145. But we are not talking about 50% off-center. We are talking about the extreme errors, the dramatic failures, the coins that should never have left the mint but somehow did. Then there is the double struck off-center error, where a coin fails to eject after the first strike and gets hit by the dies a second time, creating two overlapping ghost-like impressions that make the coin look like a surrealist painting. These are rarer and more dramatic versions of the off-center error. Because two separate minting failures must happen to the same coin, double-struck off-center pieces are prized by advanced error collectors. General examples sell in the $300 to $1,000 range, with dramatic pieces exceeding $1,000. But again, we are not talking about general examples. We are talking about the extreme outliers, the coins that combine multiple errors in a single piece, the coins that make collectors weak in the knees. There is also the wrong planchet error, where a quarter is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Quarters struck on dime planchets are particularly prized, with one example reportedly selling for $646 at auction. But when you combine a wrong planchet error with a double die, or an off-center strike, or any combination of these dramatic failures, you are no longer looking at a few $100s. You are looking at a coin that could change your life. Let us talk about the $790,000 figure because I know that is what brought you here. That number represents the absolute pinnacle of what a 1995 D Washington quarter error coin can achieve at auction. It represents a coin that is not just rare, but uniquely rare. A coin that combines multiple dramatic errors in a single piece. A coin that has been professionally graded and authenticated by one of the major grading services. A coin that has survived decades without being lost, spent, or damaged. A coin that has found its way into the hands of a collector who understands exactly what they are holding. That is the $790,000 coin. That is the coin that could be hiding in your pocket change right now. Now, I want to pause here for another moment of honesty. The odds of finding a $790,000 coin in your spare change are astronomically low. I am not going to lie to you and tell you that it is likely. It is not. But here is what I will tell you. The odds of finding a coin worth several $1,000s? Those odds are significantly higher. The odds of finding a coin worth several $100s? Those odds are higher still. And the odds of finding a coin worth more than face value? Those odds are actually quite good if you know what you are looking for. The difference between you and the person who spends that $790,000 coin on a cup of coffee is simply knowledge. That is it. That is the only difference. They do not know what they are holding. You do. So what does this mean for you right now? It means that every single time you handle pocket change, you are holding a lottery ticket. It means that every single time you receive a quarter in change, you have an opportunity. It means that every single time you are about to spend a 1995 D quarter, you need to stop, examine it carefully, and ask yourself one question. Is this the one? Here is what you need to do. First, start checking your change. Every single coin. Every single time. Make it a habit. Make it automatic. When you receive a quarter, flip it over. Look for the date. Look for the mint mark. Look for anything unusual. Second, if you find a 1995 D quarter, do not spend it. Set it aside. Examine it with a magnifying glass if you have one. Look for doubling on the lettering. Look for off-center strikes. Look for any anomalies that suggest an error occurred during the minting process. Third, if you suspect you have found something valuable, get it professionally graded. Send it to PCGS or NGC. Let the experts authenticate it and assign it a grade. That grade is what determines the value. That grade is what separates a 25-cent coin from a life-changing windfall. The market for error coins is hotter than it has ever been. Collectors are actively searching for these coins. Auction houses are seeing record prices. Online marketplaces are buzzing with activity. And the 1995 D Washington quarter error coin sits right at the center of all that excitement. It is the coin that everyone wants and almost no one has. It is the coin that could be sitting in your pocket right now, completely unnoticed, completely unappreciated, waiting for someone with the knowledge to recognize its true value. Do not be the person who spends a fortune. Be the person who finds one. Be the person who recognizes what they are holding. Be the person who turns pocket change into real wealth. The opportunity is there. It is real. And it is waiting for you. But here is the thing. The 1995 D Washington quarter is not the only ultra-rare coin hiding in plain sight. There are others. Coins from different years. coins with different errors, coins that could be worth even more. And in our next video, we are going to reveal another one. Another coin that most people overlook. Another coin that could be sitting in your change jar right now, waiting to be discovered. This is the 2021 P Mint Mark Washington crossing the Delaware quarter. And for the lucky few who know exactly what to look for, it represents the single greatest arbitrage opportunity in modern American numismatics. Today, we are going to uncover why this specific coin has become a ghost in the collector market, the specific minting errors that can transform pocket change into life-changing wealth, and why a single specimen could command a staggering $980,000 at auction. But first, I need you to stop everything you are doing right now. Pause this video, go to wherever you keep your loose change, grab a handful of quarters and bring them back. I will wait. Did you do it? If not, I understand. But I want you to remember this moment because the difference between spending a quarter and retiring on a quarter comes down to a few millimeters of metal and a mistake that should never have happened. Let us start with the basics. In 2021, the United States Mint released a special one-year-only design commemorating General George Washington's legendary crossing of the Delaware River on Christmas night, 1776. This was no ordinary commemorative issue. It was a transitional coin that bridged two major programs, restored the classic 1932 Washington obverse portrait that had been altered since 1999, and marked the final year of the original copper-nickel-clad composition that had been used for 56 years. In other words, this coin was a historical bookend, a numismatic convergence of three firsts in a single strike. The Philadelphia Mint produced an astonishing 681.6 million of these quarters. Nearly 700 million coins flooded into circulation. By any reasonable measure, that is an enormous mintage. So why would anyone pay nearly $1 million for something so common? Because buried within that sea of ordinary quarters are a handful of coins that should never have existed. Coins that slipped past quality control, coins that were struck under impossible circumstances, coins that are, for all intents and purposes, ghosts. Here is where things get interesting. Most 2021 P Washington crossing the Delaware quarters are worth exactly 25 cents. A well-preserved, uncirculated example might fetch a few dollars. A flawless MS-68 specimen sold for $439.95 on eBay in early 2025. A dramatic double-die obverse error, clearly visible under magnification, has sold at auction for $300 to $800. A die clash error, where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet between them, can bring $150 to over $1,300. A combined lip mole and snake eye die chip error commands up to $1,500 from specialist collectors. But we are not talking about a few $100s or even a few thousand. We are talking about nearly $1 million. So what makes the $980,000 specimen so different? Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a quarter that is not just off-center, but off-center to such a dramatic degree that the design is visibly shifted, creating a crescent-shaped blank area on one side. Imagine a quarter struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps on a dime blank or a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine a quarter with a combination of errors, multiple die chips, die cracks, and strike-throughs all present on a single coin, creating a perfect storm of manufacturing mistakes. Imagine a coin that was struck not once, but multiple times, creating overlapping, impossible designs. And then imagine that coin surviving circulation in pristine, uncirculated condition, untouched by human hands, graded by PCGS or NGC at the highest possible level. This is the holy grail. This is the coin that makes numismatists weak in the knees. The market for error coins has exploded in recent years. Social media platforms like TikTok and YouTube have democratized coin collecting, bringing millions of new eyes to the hobby. Coin roll hunting, the practice of buying rolls of coins from banks and searching them for errors, has become a national pastime. And every single day, ordinary Americans are finding coins worth hundreds, thousands, and in some cases, tens of thousands of dollars. But here is the uncomfortable truth. For every person who finds a valuable error coin, thousands spend them without ever knowing what they had. The spender versus the collector. The person who sees 25 cents versus the person who sees a down payment on a house. Which one are you? Let me give you a pattern interrupt. Take out one of those quarters you grabbed earlier. Hold it up to the light. Look at George Washington's hat on the reverse side, the side showing the crossing of the Delaware. Do you see any extra material? Any bumps, chips, or raised areas? That is called a die chip error, and it happens when a small piece of the die breaks off during the striking process and becomes permanently pressed into the coin. A minor die chip on the hat can be worth $30 to $50. A significant one can fetch up to $200. Now look at Washington's face on the obverse side. Do you see any doubling? Any shadows or ghost images around the lettering or the date? That is a double die error, and it occurs when the die receives multiple impressions at slightly different angles. A lightly doubled example can sell for $25 to $100. A strong, well-defined specimen graded MS65 or higher has sold at auction for $300 to $800. Now look at the edge of the coin. Is it perfectly round? Or does it look slightly flattened, slightly wider than normal, with a smooth edge instead of reeded ridges? That is a broad-struck error, and it happens when the coin is struck without the retaining collar that normally gives quarters their distinctive edge. Broad-struck quarters can sell for $30 to $200. And if you find a coin with any combination of these errors, the value multiplies exponentially. A coin with a die chip, a die crack, and a strike-through error all on the same specimen is not just a mistake. It is a masterpiece of manufacturing failure. It is a coin that should have been destroyed but somehow made it into your pocket. Now, let us talk about that $980,000 figure. Where does it come from? It comes from the intersection of extreme rarity, dramatic visual impact, and collector demand. It comes from the understanding that the 2021 P. Washington crossing the Delaware quarter is a one-year-only design that will never be minted again. It comes from the knowledge that the copper-nickel-clad composition ended with this coin. It comes from the realization that the classic Washington obverse portrait was restored for this coin and then retired forever. It comes from the convergence of historical significance, manufacturing error, and the sheer impossibility of finding a flawless specimen with dramatic errors in circulation. Consider this. The Philadelphia Mint produced 681.6 million of these quarters. If we assume that 1 in a million coins has a significant error, that gives us roughly 682 error coins. If we assume that 1 in 1,000 of those errors is dramatic enough to command a 5-figure price, we are looking at less than 1 coin. Less than 1 perfect, dramatic, multi-error specimen in the entire mintage. That is not rarity. That is mythology. And that is why collectors are willing to pay nearly $1 million for the right coin. Because they are not buying a quarter. They are buying a piece of history. They are buying a manufacturing anomaly that should never have existed. They are buying a ghost. Here is your second pattern interrupt. I want you to think about the last time you paid for something with cash. Think about the quarters you received in change. Did you look at them? Did you check the date? Did you check the mint mark? Did you check for errors? Probably not. And that is exactly why this opportunity still exists. Because most people do not know what they are holding. Most people see 25 cents. You now see something different. The market for error coins is heating up. Auction houses are reporting record prices for modern error coins. Online marketplaces like eBay are seeing a flood of listings, but also a flood of buyers willing to pay premium prices for authenticated, graded specimens. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC are attributing more error varieties than ever before. And the community of coin roll hunters is growing every single day. But here is the catch. Most error coins are not worth grading. The grading fees, shipping, and insurance can easily exceed the value of the coin. That is why you need to know what you are looking for before you spend money on authentication. That is why education is the single most important tool in your numismatic arsenal. Let me give you a quick checklist. 1. Look for the P Mint mark next to Washington's ponytail on the obverse side. The Philadelphia Mint produced the vast majority of these coins, and most error reports come from P-minted specimens. 2. Examine the reverse side, specifically Washington's hat, for die chips and extra material. 3. Look for doubling on the obverse lettering and date. 4.